Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, I promised I was going to talk about my gaming philosophy or where I stand in terms of the big model and all that junk. So here I am. I'm not sure if you remembered. Did I promise this? Anyhow, you know, I've had an evolution in terms of gaming philosophy, and to be honest with you, like that stuff was just stuff I did not think about very much. Partly because we weren't discussing that back in the early, in mid '80s and late '80s. We just weren't. We were, at least the people I was playing with, we were going out and we were, playing. And that was that. We knew what we liked and didn't like, but we didn't put like labels on it yet. So coming back into the hobby, I was barraged as I got into forums, and forums are, they're forums. They can be arenas with all kinds of terms. And I was not the nicest person on the forums either, So just saying, I try to change my ways over the time. But people started telling me, "Oh, well, you're a narrativist because you play Dungeons and Dragons." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, there's these games that are simulationists, and where they take everything, everything's realistic, and your game isn't that realistic, so you're telling a story." And well, okay, wasn't sure what to say, but I didn't really care that much at that time, what they thought. So having some time to really kind of sit back and examine some of these concepts and talking to some other people that have done a lot of thinking about this, you know, I've kind of slowly figured out where I land. And I'll be honest with you, like I really consider something like simulationism to be that you're literally simulating everything. Because honestly, that's the way it was described to me by a lot of people. And you know, I certainly like some detailed stuff in games. I remember I think I've talked about this in videos in the past. You know, when more and more cool rules or ideas came out, I kind of jumped on them. This would be kind of cool. And of course, the game gets a little unwieldy depending on what level of granularity on realism you're going for, or where you're trying to be realistic. And I think it's a matter of taste wherever you go. But that I thought that was simulationism because that's the way it was explained. That's really not what it is. I've come to find out that at least for me, it means having the world be internally consistent. That it's believable, that it's not it's being, I guess, being true to the genre. These are it's funny, like I use a lot of the words that Runeslinger uses now, but it's just like these are words that fit. Like I wasn't quite sure what the heck I was thinking, or I lacked the lingo and the jargon to kind of make sense of it. And then because some people have thought about this a lot more than I have. So after trying on some of these words, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much how I roll, or what feels comfortable and natural to me. Um, it's not a surprise if you watch me, that I'm not somebody that really leans towards storytelling or narrativism. Just in the case that, like, yeah, there's times when I think something, I'm excited about something being cool, but I don't want to alter everything just to have the cool thing happen. Nor do I want to start out with a pre-planned story. That's just not me. And as far as things like player agency, I draw the line firmly at like, okay, well, you have agency over your character and what they say, think, do, feel, all that stuff. But as a player, I don't want to have agents, control over what happens in the game world itself, other than through my actions. That to me breaks, I guess, simulationism, because I want to simulate a real person, as real as a fictional character can be, operating in a real fictional world. That works for me. That's what's exciting. Now, there's nothing wrong with it being a little gamist. I'm not. I think we were all, or at least for me, a lot of us were power gamers for a while because we got really enamored with all these roles, and let's figure out how to really optimize this guy because I want a cool guy, And at some point that got old. But like I've said before, I'm not stupid, and a lot of my channel has been about rules, but I find them fascinating. The rules to me are simply still just a vehicle to get to where I want to go. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a little bit, as far as when you're me. I'm not saying it's wrong, anything's wrong or right. I'm just saying for me, nothing wrong with being a little bit gamist. I'm a big fan of having a character that's very good defensively because I want them to live. That's important to me. Unless it really just doesn't fit with the character concept, or not even character concept, but like who this person becomes. But most people want to live, so I'm not stupid. I tend to focus a lot of times on some defensive stuff in my characters because I enjoy playing them. I prefer not to have to roll anyone up, but sometimes that happens. So I guess what am I? And I'd like to explore this topic again and get your your takes, like what are you and why. But I guess, I fall into this camp where I'm pretty much simulationist with a little bit of gamist, around the edges. I guess that's me at this point. But as long as whatever kind of, gamey stuff I'm doing isn't really breaking my immersion to the character and the world. I never really thought of myself as being immersed in the character because I just kind of thought that was going to be acting. And I don't like acting, especially bad acting. But when I realized it's more, at least for me, it's more stepping into this character, figuring out like, oh, well, how do they view the world? What do they think? What are their motivations? What are their desires? Maybe I can't eloquently talk like them at the game table, but I can pretty much tell you what they say and do in terms of like, what they're trying to get across, what they're trying to accomplish, what kind of person they are. And so I like to step into character. I like to, operate that person. What would this guy do in the world? What would Bob do? What would Aprax do in this situation? And then I like to go explore an actual dynamic game world that's not, hasn't been tailored for me. It's just it is the way it is. It's impartial, and so I get to interact with it. I'm a truth seeker in real life. I want to know what's really true. So I like my characters to be that way too. Let's go find out what's really going on in the world. And side tangent, and the video's getting long. You can see the clicker going, timer going, but part of that is when I was a kid, every once in a while I enjoyed a fun house dungeon, being a bit of a mad scientist. I think Matthew Colville put that in one of his videos as an extra type of gamer. And yeah, but that gets old. So, every once in a while, a little teeny bit of that for ha-has is okay. But, for the most part now, I really don't like that in my games anymore. And I've been guilty of running that as a DM as well. But it gets old. And so I prefer things to be as realistic as they possibly can be in a fictional game world, insofar as the whole world being consistent with itself. So I'm not sure if that made any sense, but, what kind of gamer are you? What has your evolution been over time? I'd like to hear about that.